Citlali is the second 5-star coming to Genshin Impact for version 5.3, and based on what we're seeing about her kit, she could be crazy. She might power creep Zhongli, she might buff some of the strongest DPSs in the game, and she will not help the rest of the Cryo cast at all. Seriously? Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. Speaking of building and testing, I tested 25 plus teams to see how good Chaska actually is, and 40 plus teams to test Auroron, and before and after teams for every buffed elemental reaction. That was a ton of work, and if you want to see the results, I'll link those videos at the end of this one. And if you want to win a free Moeka or a free Citlali, we will be giving away one of each. So go check the comments down below to see how you can enter. All right, before we get into what her kit will be, because we have a pretty darn good idea of what her kit will do, not gonna name my sources, but we'll start off with the official reveals before we get into her kit. And we're gonna do a little teams tier list for who she's gonna work with later on. Because again, my #1 goal with these early videos is to help you decide if you should start thinking about saving for this character, because we don't know everything, and anything can change. Sometimes characters change hugely from pre-release to when they're actually released, but at least this video will help you start thinking, hey, is this a character that will work with my account? Should I start saving for them? And of course, I'll keep you updated as we go. I've always thought that Citlali was chief material, and she'd take that role eventually. But 200 years on, she's still as unenthused about going outside as ever. It might take a figure more fascinating than those light novels for our genius shaman to take greater interest in the real world. But is there really anyone who can do that? Moeka. Oh, so she's into light novels, so she could get along with Kokomi, or not? Sorry, not Kokomi, with Yai. But she looks like Kokomi, right? The coloring. We've got her drip marketing reveal. It's that generic music again. It's a nice bop, but we've heard it a billion times now. Okay. Whenever a child starts crying uncontrollably, parents from the Masters of Nightwind in need of immediate relief are quick to make use of Granny Eatslee's name. Over the past 200 years, many a terrifying rumor has been born from the horrendous defeats she has inflicted of challengers, eventually granting her prestige sufficient to silence wailing infants. Oh my gosh. As the bearer of this title, Citlali has never sought to explain herself, as though she really is such a horrific entity. But if you should dare set foot in her remote abode, you will find it a right mess, with wine bottles and snacks and shelves stuffed to bursting with light novels, and you'd be forgiven for thinking of her as some frightening old hag in her lair, and more as a hermit in her nest. And in this case, Citlali will feel the need to argue as such. I'm not a hermit, I'm just above superficial rules of societal etiquette. All right, I mean, I found her very similar to Farzan in the story, and I liked Farzan. I liked her in the story. I wouldn't say she's like my absolute most anticipated character ever, but I was really curious about her for one specific reason, which I'll get to in a minute. But overall, I think she's really cute. I like the outfit. I like her personality. I like her little, this looks like an orca whale. I'm not wrong about this, right? This really looks like an orca whale. Orca whales are my favorite animals, so maybe I'm just seeing orcas everywhere. But to me, this one really does look like that. I really like the colors. I think that's one of my favorite things about her design. The pink hair gradient going into purple, the pink and purple and blue with the black. I think she has a really, really nice color scheme. The overall design doesn't pop as much as the color does. I also like the thigh window. That's maybe my favorite part about this image. Okay, moving on to her kit. I really thought that based on her colors, they were going to do something kind of like they did with Chevreuse, where Chevreuse is red and purple, and they made her work with Pyro and Electro characters for Overloaded. I really thought that she was going to be like a superconduct support. Maybe not just superconduct, but at least partially a superconduct support. But unfortunately, she does not do that. Not at all. It is so far from what she actually does. Because if you think about it, you look back at my old tier list, the cryo characters are sort of being pushed down more and more. Physical characters, all they need is support. What I want to see is like whenever a superconduct reaction happens, Electro and cryo characters get X buff, because you already get red shred from the superconduct, so it just gives them a big buff, and then both cryo and electro damage can happen, and it also buffs physical damage. So it's like a triple buff kind of character, incentivizing you to run, you know, a super conduct physical team. And also that could just be, they could also just buff cryo, or they could buff electro, or whatever it would be. Maybe depending on which reaction happens, they give a different type of buff. That's what I was really wanting and hoping for Seedlali. But instead, Genshin Impact said, no, we're gonna buff the strongest characters in the game. What we're gonna do is not make her buff cryo at all, at least for now. Hopefully in the future, maybe they add something in. But for now, she actually buffs pyro and hydro characters. So after a freeze reaction, both pyro and hydro are buffed. After a melt reaction, both pyro and hydro are buffed, which makes her a pretty interesting teammate for certain characters. Because not only is she a buffer, she also deals a similar amount of damage for Rosaria and Kaya, to Rosaria and Kaya. So she's a decent off-field DPS, and she is a shielder. At least this is what people are saying that she is. You know, anything could happen. I mean, they might be lying to me, but that is what people are expecting her to do. So what does this mean? Well, we're not going to cover everyone, but there are certain characters. If you want to run, I know some people, it's kind of weird, but some people run Zhongli on their Tartaglia teams because he does have some res shred. You're not going to get as much damage as, you know, Kazuha doing a double swirl, but double swirl is kind of annoying. So if you run Seedlali, you know, you're going to get all those reactions that we talked about, and you're going to get those buffs, so it's going to be better than running Zhongli. I doubt that her shield strength will be as Zhongli. We'll have to see. I bet it'll be fine, but I doubt it'll be as good as Zhongli. So I think I'm going to put him in solid comfort. And then the other tier list I have is best in slot comfort, so a comfy team, but maybe not peak damage, and then general best in slot, because shielders are generally not best in slot for damage. Like, I don't know if there's any teams right now, except for maybe Clorand Aggravate with Kirara on instructors and the Key of Kajna suit, maybe, but even then, I think you can run Nahida on instructors and use, like, I don't know, some other weapon. So yeah, I think that this is going to be quite a big upgrade for Hu Tao. Right now, Hu Tao is running Shalonin. I think you don't, because if you think about, if you've ever run a Hu Tao team with a cryo character, you can get some extra melts on top of getting your freezes. Sometimes you might miss out on stuff, but sometimes not. You can also just go for melt and not go for the hydro, but I'm going to go best in slot for comfort, because I think she'll replace Zhongli on the double hydro team for players that pull her and that want to use it. And I wonder if you could pair Shalonin with them, if that would be better. I mean, I'll be testing it out. That'll be really interesting to see. Obviously, this is very subject to change, all of this, because she's brand new. But yeah, Ido Vape. I mean, I don't really think people are playing Ido Vape, but I guess it'll probably be fine. Klee doesn't really want to vape. I'm gonna put her in I don't know, just because I don't think, I mean, maybe you'll be able to melt some cryo stuff. Maybe in the future we get like another cryo sub DPS, and then Klee is providing the pyro and the cryos are vaping, or not vaping, the cryos are melting. I don't know. Diluc melt is like a thing that people do, and I'm gonna put him in question mark just because people do play Diluc melt. So, and I don't know how tricky it is. Maybe it'll be easier with Seedlali, and people tend to like it, or like serious Diluc players tend to like it. So I could see something happening with Diluc melt. I'm gonna put it here though, because I don't know how good it'll be compared to Plunge. Raiden, I'm gonna put in Nah. She doesn't do the super conduct thing at all. Kokomi a support, so it's not really relevant. I'm gonna put Yelan. Maybe I need kind of different tiers. I don't know. It's kind of hard to do to rank a shielder like this. I always have trouble. It's more like amazing option, great option, solid option, and keeping in mind that because she's a shielder, she'll always be. You're usually going to be trading off damage for comfort unless they're in the top tier. So anyways, I think that because Seedlali buffs Hydro, then that means that Yelan, whether used on a freeze type team or on a vape melt type team, Yelan is going to be great. I don't know about putting best in slot. I'm just gonna leave it as amazing. It's really, I don't know. This is really hard. But it gives you an idea of her synergies, anyways. So I think Yelan is gonna be very powerful with her and have lots of different options. I could see it being part of a core. What I really would love to work is to have, you know, maybe Seedlali's damage is pretty good, and you can run Shenhe, Seedlali, Yelan, and other character. I don't know. That's what I'm hoping for. I just want to see Shenhe buffs. Yai is a no. Shenhe. Please. Please. She doesn't buff cryo though, so it's just like, ugh, probably I'm gonna put her here because I want to cope that somehow it'll be good, but we need more cryo characters that actually buff cryo. I'm so pissed, to be honest. Okay, Zhongli, I'm gonna put him down here, even though there's obviously not gonna be a synergy. She's gonna take a lot of Zhongli's teams, so I'm gonna put him down here. Mika, Ayaka, it seems like she won't do, well, that's Diona. Seems like she won't really do anything for Ayaka, unfortunately. Zhao also, I don't think no, that doesn't do anything. Alhaitham, no. Yanfei, yes. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think she'll be a great option for a lot of pyro carries. Ganyu, nothing. Nilou, nothing. Layla, she just power creeps the crap out of Layla. She's like Layla, but better. Sino, Eula, no way. Kazuha, she kind of is like an alternative to Kazuha, another alternative. You're not usually going to put Kazuha and Citlali on the same team. They'll usually take up the same team slot. She doesn't work with Dendro. I'm not anticipating any Fridge Bloom stuff. I could see Yoimiya, you know, I could see Yoimiya, like Yoimiya does want a shielder and she does want to vapor melt. I'm going to put her up here, but you know, it's a Yoimiya great option, right? Yoimiya is already, you know, I consider her worse than both Hu Tao and Yanfei, but I could still see Citlali being a buff for Yoimiya. I could see there being some interesting Furina stuff, but not being a healer means you'll have to fit a healer on there. So are you running Xilonen? And then, you know, how is that going? So I'm not sure about Furina. We'll have to wait and see. Wriothesley, she doesn't help at all. Like, they need to add into her kit when she does these reactions. She buff Hydro, Pyro, and Cryo. Then we can actually use Cryo characters with her. But maybe they're saving that for the future. Navia doesn't make sense. Chiori, Arlecchino. So I'm gonna put Arlecchino in amazing option because she's the one who's more often used in Melt right now. Now, it's not super popular. I've actually got a video that I'm going to be talking about it pretty soon, either with C6 Kaya or that Rosaria plus Kaya. Arlecchino is actually pretty good and used, unlike Melt with these other characters. So it could very well be that it's Arlecchino's best shielded team. And I don't know why Hu Tao wouldn't be up there. Maybe she would be. Maybe all of these characters would be. But I'm just going to go like this because right now we're not seeing people play Melt Tao, right? But we are seeing Melt Arlecchino a little bit. So that's why I'm going to do it like that. Gaming also plays Melt a bit more, and if we have a more dedicated Melt buffer, there's more incentive. It'll push it more above Vaporize. So Emily wants Burning. Is there any way to have Burning and Melting? I'm gonna put it in question mark. I mean, we'll give it a try, but I feel like the reactions probably won't work out, but it's gonna be worth a try anyways. So people might not expect this, but I think that Mualani is gonna be really good with Citlali. Buffing Hydro, she might be a viable alternative to the Hydro characters we have right now. Like instead of Mona or Candace, you might be able to run Citlali. You get a bit of shielding, you get that buffing, doesn't interfere too much with not like, hopefully it shouldn't interfere as much as Candace and Mona do with the vapes. So hopefully between Citlali, like you're gonna run Citlali, Moika, Xilonen, and hopefully that's consistent enough to let you vape all your hits. I think it will be, but we don't really know. So all of this is subject to change. I think Mualani is the most suspect because she relies so heavily on those vapes, but if it does work, that team should be absolutely cracked. Kinich, I don't think that works at all. Ororon doesn't make sense. Yeah, Cloran doesn't make sense. Wanderer, I don't see it, I don't think, because she's not buffing Wanderer's damage. So you'll have to run maybe like Wanderer Yelan. It's sort of like a buffed. It should be a buff to his freeze teams. Maybe a solid. Maybe we'll put it in solid option. Yeah, I think that's how it's gonna go. It's like a buff to his freeze teams. We're trying his best teams, but some people play them. I don't think Linny Melt is a thing, but we'll try it. And then weirdly, Neuvillette. This should actually be a great option for Neuvillette. It won't be better than Kazuha Xilonen, but you are getting freeze, which is buffing Hydro, and it will be shielded. So if you're a character collector type person, you want to have more characters instead of going vertical. Because you can solve Citlali. It's like Citlali provides interruption resistance for Neuvillette and then also a buff. But the thing is, you can also get that same thing from his C1 and then run a better character in the other slot so he doesn't need interruption resistance. So it's not worth it to get Citlali for Neuvillette, but it should still be a great option. And then I think the biggest one is Chaska. Like as I said before, Chaska is already good with, you know, Shenhe as the cryo character. But if you think about a cryo character providing a buff to both Pyro and Hydro, and also cryo damage being pretty solid as well. That means you can play Chaska, Bennett, Farina, Citlali. And Citlali will be buffing Chaska's Pyro shots and Hydro shots. And then cryo shots, especially if they're reacting off the Pyro, will do a lot of damage at a baseline. Maybe we could do double Pyro, or single Pyro, double cryo. Run Shenhe, Citlali, Bennett. Yeah, you're not getting as many bullets, but maybe you're melting more consistently. Please let that be good. Please, 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 for Shenhe. So this is what I'm kind of thinking about. This is what I'm planning on testing with her. Obviously, she's not as universal as Moeka, but who knows? Maybe she'll be even better, and maybe she'll improve and get additional stuff throughout the beta. But she's still looking like really strong for some of the strongest characters in Genshin Impact. And also just, it depends how strong her shield is, but she might be a crowd favorite. Shielders are often crowd favorites for lots of players, for mobile, for casual, and just for comfort in general. You know, Arlecchino's most popular team uses Zhongli. Novelet's most popular team uses Zhongli, or it used to. Hu Tao uses Zhongli. Lots of non-optimal players use Zhongli, and that's perfectly good. And Citlali should be an upgrade for a lot of those teams. So let me know your thoughts. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really helps out the channel. But if you don't want to do that, totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Take care. Bye for now.